Gifted children.
At the turn of the 20th century, advancements in education and psychology brought empirical and scientific credibility to the field of gifted education. The early studies of giftedness in the 1920s and 30s evolved from research on mental inheritance, subnormal children, construction of instruments to measure both the sub and supernormal, and the realization that graded schools could not adequately meet the needs of all children. Pioneers such as Lewis Terman and Leda Hollingworth spearheaded the movement and conducted some of the first widely published research studies on gifted children.
Needs, characteristics, and generalizations.
Did you know? Gifted learners often know half the year's curriculum before the school year begins. 81% of teachers believe advanced students need special attention. 88% of high school dropouts have passing grades, but just drop out because they're bored. 6 states mandated gifted programming and provide full funding: Arizona, Georgia, Iowa, Mississippi, North Carolina, and Oklahoma. Here is a comparison of gifted children versus non-gifted children. Gifted children are highly responsible and either committed to their learning. They prefer to learn through their tactile and kinesthetic senses, and they prefer learning alone and does not need structure. While on the other hand, non-gifted children are less in need of structure. They are peer-orientated when it comes to learning and more auditory and visual learners. Gifted children have less preference for using auditory sense for learning. They are more conceptual, they are more open and flexible, and they are more independent learners. Versus non-gifted, the mobility and learning with authority figures are present and they need regular classroom instruction. Here are some differences between bright students and gifted learners. Bright students knows the answers. They're more interested and attentive. They have good ideas, they work hard, answer the questions. They're usually in the top groups and they listen with interest. They learn with ease, enjoys peers, grasps the meaning, completes assignments, enjoys school, good at memorizations, is alert, is pleased with and is pleased with their own learning. And gifted learners, they ask questions, is highly curious, is mentally and physically involved, always knows, has strong feelings and opinions, draws inferences, is intense, creates new designs, good at guessing, is keenly observant, and highly self-critical.
Stereotypes.
There are two consistent stereotypes: the harmony hypothesis and the disharmony hypothesis. The harmony hypothesis is where gifted students are superior in all domains. The disharmony hypothesis is where gifted students have maladaptive social behavior and emotional problems. Students described as gifted are perceived to being more open to new experiences, more introverted, less emotionally stable, and less agreeable. The harmony hypothesis suggests that the gifted and talented exhibit superior intellectual abilities and also more socially competent, more successful, and better at adapting to new circumstances, In other terms, paragons of virtue. The disharmony hypothesis states the high ability comes at a cost for the gifted individual, resulting in social and emotional deficiencies in particular. The stereotype of the intellectually outstanding yet socially awkward and emotionally unstable individual still prevails in the media and sometimes even in guidebooks targeted at parents of the gifted. Just look at this handwriting. How can he be gifted? Unlike the term intelligence, with its clearly positive valence, giftedness has more ambivalent connotations, this triggering strong and contradictory associations. Gifted students score higher on openness to experience and lower on neuroticism and trait anxiety than their average ability peers.
Misconceptions.
Many people believe that gifted students can teach themselves or be successful by not receiving much assistance in class. According to Weinbrenner, the needs of our gifted students have been overlooked. She points out that since many gifted students score well on assessments, they must not need much assistance from their teacher. Teachers must provide for gifted just like they provide for students who are below grade level. One way to do this is to differentiate. Weinbrenner states, simply in the interest of equity, these students are as entitled to receive the same types of differentiation so readily provided to the students who struggle to learn. Many teachers feel that gifted students can complete most of their assignments on their own, simply because they are considered gifted. This is a misconception that has a negative impact on gifted students since they need just as much support as other students. Another misconception is that gifted students are superior at everything they participate in. This is false, since some gifted students are gifted in certain subject areas or fine arts.
Challenges.
Gifted learners face many challenges on a daily basis. Gifted students who live in certain areas may lack or have experiences that other students do not have. According to Grubb, gifted students in urban areas can have limited access to enriching life experiences. The challenges of coming from a second language background, lack of exposure to classical ideas, and financial constraints can each individually impose barriers to academic success. Gifted learners also face the challenge of being stressed. If a student is accelerated to another grade based on scores, then they are expected to perform at that level. The asynchronous development of gifted students also has an impact of gifted students. Mentally, the student might be on a 13 or 14-year-old level, but socially, they could be on a 7 or 8-year-old level. Gifted students might hide their abilities because they do not want to be known as the quote unquote smart kid. Also, being smart is not considered cool by many of their peers. Some gifted students might not have many friends or know how to communicate with peers due to their extreme vocabulary. Many gifted learners struggle with organization and study skills since they have an excellent memory. They use their memory instead of organizing and prioritizing. Gifted students can also have overexcite abilities. Therefore, Gifted students tend to experience life more intense than regular students. Gifted students also struggle with perfectionism. They simply want to be the best at everything, which can cause illness or have negative impacts of social relations. Some gifted students can fall into the category of becoming underachievers. They simply choose to not perform at their academic level. Also, gifted students can have a hard time having friends since they feel different at school. Oh, gifted students don't need help. They'll do fine on their own. Teachers challenge all the students, so gifted kids will be fine in the regular classroom. Did you know gifted students make everyone else in the class smarter by providing a role model or a challenge? Oh, gifted education programs are elitist. That student can't be gifted. He's receiving poor grades. Gifted students are happy, popular, and well adjusted in school. Acceleration placement options are socially harmful for gifted students. All children are gifted. What? This child can't be gifted. He has a disability. Well, our district has gifted and talented programs. We have AP courses. Gifted education requires an abundance of resources.
Pitfalls.
Gifted students do not have a chance to reach their full potential in many schools. This is the case because the teachers do not know how to meet the needs of gifted students. If the needs of a gifted learner are not met, the students can become extremely bored and disengaged with the content in school. Page found that if the needs of gifted learners are not met, then they become accustomed to the unchallenging work and struggle when presented with a difficult task. When pressured to perform at the top of their level or accelerated to another grade, gifted students can have socio-emotional problems. Many schools do not provide rich enough material for gifted students to complete. Therefore, students are completed assignments that do not stimulate their growth. Many gifted students feel that they can accomplish many things through their schooling since they have so many interests. The only drawback of this is having too many interests that they are trying to fulfill. This can become overwhelming and eventually have negative impacts on their schooling.
Effective practices and tips. Tip number 1.
Familiarize yourself with the characteristics of intellectually gifted students. Not all gifted students in your classroom will be identified, and even those who are may not always appear to be gifted. As such, it is important that you don't allow yourself to be distracted by false stereotypes.
Tip number 2.
Let go of quote unquote normal. In order to be an effective teacher, whether it's your first year or your 30th, the best thing you can do for yourself is to let go of the idea of normal.
Tip number 3.
Conduct informal assessments. Meeting the needs of gifted students does not need to be an all-consuming task. One of the easiest ways to better understand how to provide challenging material is to conduct informal whole class assessments on a regular basis.
Tip number 4.
Refamiliarize yourself with Piaget and Bloom. Jean Piaget offers a helpful description of developmental stages as they relate to learning. Gifted students are often in his informal operations stage when their peers are still in his pre-operational or concrete operations stages.
Tip number 5.
Involve parents as resource locators. Parents of gifted children are often active advocates for their children.
Tip number 6.
Learn about distance learning opportunities. Distance learning opportunities have dramatically increased options for meeting the needs of gifted students. Programs such as EPGY Math and the Johns Hopkins Writing Tutorials, as well as online high school and college courses, including online AP classes, are a great way to substitute more challenging curriculum for students who demonstrate proficiency with grade level material.
Tip number 7.
Explore acceleration. It's free and it works. Another option is to allow students to attend classes with other students who are at the same developmental level, rather than their age peers.
Tip number 8.
Learning from the experience of others.
References. Brought to you by J. Barodelli, C. Harper, C. Pelt, and C. Reed. Thank you.